real world asset tokenization. Now we're talking about all kinds of things. So it can be stocks and bonds, it can be currencies. They're all going to be tokenized.
This kind of thing, it's not truly decentralized. So you can't trust it 100%.
What HBAR is, because taken off like a rocket. For a while, you could buy it at a penny.
If you're unaware, like, this is not a blockchain. Am I super bullish here? Good morning, monkeys. Welcome to the kitchen. My name is Mimi, aka the Token Chef. Today we are reviewing HBAR, aka Hedera Hashgraph. Hedera Hashgraph, or HBAR, something I've been aware of for years. I've been looking at it for years. I've never bought it. I've never held it, but I do really respect this guy, Robert Malone over here. If you've never seen his series called Hidden Secrets of Money, it's a fantastic series. You should totally watch that. Maybe we'll watch that on different episodes, but he's super bullish on gold and silver. He's a very fundamentals kind of guy, and he's attracted to HBAR. For years, he's been attracted to HBAR. He's been a holder for a long time. So he just put out a video 2 days ago. Let's check this. Let's see if I'm missing something with HBAR or with Hedera Hashgraph.
A lot of things that talked about in the crypto space, you know, it's things that will eventually happen. We are going to do this. Well, the things that are being built on Hedera are actually happening.
What is that? Fire Festival creator Billy McFarland lands K on Credit Combat. What does that have to do with HBAR? What? What? Am I missing something? Is there an ad for HBAR somewhere? I mean, something that is true about that is last cycle, especially 2 cycles ago, crypto cycles ago, and last cycle as well, everything was all hype. That's why, in my view, every single token, even the utility tokens, were just meme coins, because none of it really had any real use case yet. It wasn't alive. So we are starting to see some of these utility projects actually working, which is quite exciting. So let's see what HBAR is doing.
Out there that has more potential when it comes to actual utility than HBAR. It's the oil to maybe Bitcoin's gold.
Yeah, and so does every utility coin use that phrase. I mean, Ether's been saying that forever. So which one really is going to be the oil? All of them.
Hi, this is Mike Maloney with Brandon Hargraves of HBAR Bull. He's the HBAR Bull.
And just so you know, for Mike Maloney, I mean, he's a hardcore silver bug, gold and silver. Yeah, I know he holds Bitcoin and HBAR. That's the only thing I've ever really seen him speak about. Maybe he talks about more. I don't watch his content recently, though. So there must be a reason why he's really feeling it.
We're having so much fun in the crypto space in general, but specifically is really starting to heat up.
Yes, you know, it went up basically 828% from November 2nd to December 2nd. So in 1 month, 828% rise. It was pretty spectacular. And so I am so glad that I had the opportunity to load up on some HBAR.
You know, all these older guys, they have no idea. They think an 8x is monumental, and it is in general, but if you're in crypto, if you've been playing around, you know an 8x is great. You know one's going to complain, but that's not monumental.
Quite a bit after we made episode 8 of Hidden Secrets of Money. It's really been a wonderful thing, has risen up quite a bit. I have to rebalance my portfolio because everything gets out of whack. So I actually sell some crypto and I buy silver with the proceeds. And that protects me from the downside volatility.
It's always a good strategy. If you kick ass in crypto, if you really work, sell off, buy some gold, buy some silver, maybe buy Bitcoin, you know, go into there. Just get into something a little bit more stable than whatever got you that insane gain.
There is a lot happening in this space. So just to remind all of the viewers, can you sort of describe what HBAR is? Because Hashgraph has just taken off like a rocket. For a while, you could buy it at a penny.
Great place to start. And we call those 1 centers, the people that were buying the very bottom back in January of 2020. But Hedera is a layer 1 network. It uses something called Hashgraph, which was invented by Dr. Lehman Baird. He's one of the founders of Hedera. And it has a lot of attributes that make it pretty special in the...
If you're unaware, like, this is not a blockchain, where Bitcoin would be a blockchain, or a lot of other chains, Ethereum as well, would be a blockchain, where it's transaction or in unison, it's one transaction on top of the next, on top of the next, on top of the next. This is a graph, which is similar to a Daag, where it's more of almost like a spider web in its shape, where one transaction can confirm many transactions to the left of it, to the right of it, to the top of it. Yeah, it's a much more fast system. It can do a lot of transactions at one time. They tend to be less stable because it's a newer technology. There's been a lot of issues with them slowing down. And the first one was IOTA, and IOTA went through tremendous shutdowns where the graph would just stop working for a period of time. So it wasn't excellent. Hashgraph is a different design than the other DAGs though. Although for me, when I looked at all this technology, my bet from a few years ago was always Constellation Network, ticker Daag. Like that's the one that I thought was the best opportunity or the best choice. But let's see about this.
They created this public network around it, but not just that, they also wanted to have the proper governance. So to layer on top of incredible speed, so we can process 10,000 transactions per second, but it's throttled down to that. We can actually handle many tens of thousands of transactions per second. And with sharding, which it's already designed to do as soon as we get to state proofs, it's going to be able to unlimited.
Average cost per transaction, 1/100th of a penny. That's pretty cool.
It's infinitely scalable.
Exactly.
Right.
When I hear that infinitely scalable, it makes me okay, yeah, that doesn't sound. There's some downside or something that creates infinite scalability. That doesn't happen without downsides. There's obviously something that makes it infinitely scalable that probably makes it less decentralized.
Exactly. And then it has the gold standard of security, asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerance. It also has fair ordering, so you don't have to worry about front running, which we see an awful lot of in the rest of the crypto space. They call it MEV, maximum extractable value. And they also...
What he's just talking about is when you make a transaction, that someone will make the transaction immediately before you. They see your transaction coming in. They make a transaction immediately before you. They make a little bit of money because they know that you're going to buy. And they're trying to extract the value before your transaction goes through, which is really annoying. So to see an end to that is cool.
Wanted to have proper governance. So they didn't just want a group of developers or, just on-chain governance or something like that. They wanted to have the biggest users of the network governing the network. So they wanted to establish something called the Hedera Governing Council.
Now, I do like this kind of thing. I think on-chain governance is stupid, honestly. I think trying to get token holders to vote is dumb. Most token holders don't know anything about the project. They don't care about the project. They just want to see a pump. So to try to get governance from random token holders who could just be dummies, could be 15-year-old kids, could be anybody, never really made sense to me. And the idea that even if the on-chain governance votes, they still have to have someone do the work to do the coding. So how does that stuff work? Like that stuff never seemed really a decentralized way to do anything. So this to have larger companies be the nodes, or I don't know how they're going to describe them, I see value in that in terms of like a long-term project, but this is not a decentralized project if that's what you care about. If these guys could all come together in some way and decide to shut down your transaction, that's a total possibility. Or governments get involved and tell these companies that, hey, we need you to stop this transaction or not allow that transaction. So that kind of shit scares me. I don't like that stuff. But in terms of a pump occurring, it's good to have all these big names behind it. It's easy to market that or build some hype when you got big names attached.
And Lehman, the two founders, were dreaming this up. They said, well, we want to make this network fit for purpose for enterprise use cases, mission critical enterprise use cases. And if we can meet the needs of them, we can meet the needs of everyone. So let's go find some enterprises to help us govern this network. And so they wanted Fortune 500 level entities throughout the world on different continents and in different industries to be able to govern the network. So when they first said this, people thought they were a little bit crazy, but now we're down the line and we have 32 of these council members. They include Google, Deutsche Telekom, IBM, Nomura. You can go pretty much all around the world.
This is a similar strategy that VeChain did. And I mean, I'm bullish on VeChain, so I can't really talk too much shit on this.
32 of them, all on that level of different enterprises that have expertise in different fields, from law to tech to banking and so forth.
You left out Boeing, and there's some other really big names in here globally. So
yeah, we'll mention a few as we go through here as I talk about some of the use cases.
How many spots are left open on the governing council?
So I believe we are up to 32, so it's going to be 39 total.
I hope that either Tesla or SpaceX gets on that list. I'm really hoping.
You can imagine that would be freaking huge.
Elon Musk, if you're out there, investigate it.
Yeah. And this network has different services that you could do on top of it. And it's similar to Ethereum. It's very versatile, can do a lot of different things, but we have a few services. We have just the cryptocurrency service, which allows you to send the native cryptocurrency HBAR back and forth. We also have a smart contract service, which is really versatile, but it's not quite as efficient as some of the other things. We have a consensus service, which is like an online notary. And then we also have a token service. So With a lot of these other networks, when they create tokens, and that can represent anything from, just loyalty points or a stable coin, so a currency, or it could be a security like a stock or a bond. When you create these tokens, if you create them with a smart contract like on other networks, you reduce the efficiency by like 99%. But if you do it at the base layer, you get all the efficiency of the base layer network. So you can get that 10,000 transactions per second. You can send transactions in just a few seconds to finality on our network. So you get all those benefits of having that token service. So you can use the smart contract service and the token service together to really create some pretty amazing things.
Interesting. I think in the future, we're going to have a lot of token use cases where even if you're like a local barbershop, you can make your own point system by creating John's barbershop token. Every time you come in, whatever, you get 10 free tokens, you can reward them, get 100, you get a free haircut, something like that. The token creation is now getting so easy that reality is going to be pretty close. That stuff is going to be coming pretty soon. And it's true, the chains that are just too expensive, they're not going to work for that kind of thing. So we do need super transactions for that kind of use case to be happening. And we need very easy token creation for that situation to occur as well. So I understand what HBAR is trying to do there, or the potential there. The other token or the other base one chain that's really working and doing that well right now, it's called Hathor Network. They have a lot of use cases going on in Brazil of people making tokens, and they have a very efficient creation system. So it's kind of similar to that, and there's definitely a market for that for sure.
Yeah, I just moved some from a wallet that I had to Coinbase, and it took about a second to a second and a half to have creatable tokens on Coinbase.
That is so exciting when that happens.
Private wallet. And so the speed is absolutely amazing. Is there any crypto out there where Hashgraph can't do the same function faster and more secure?
I can't think of anything, Mike. Pretty much every vertical you can think of, from gaming to real-world asset tokenization, decentralized physical infrastructure, Hedera is making strides in every single one of these verticals. It's one of the things that, we go through these 4-year crypto cycles, and there's always, a new thing coming along each time.
Yep.
But a lot of times, some of these really interesting use cases get left by the side of the road. And what Hedera's been doing is kind of picking them up, shining them up, and making them special again. What we've had these 4-year cycles where we'll see this huge run up in this new technology as far as the prices go, and then it'll kind of drop off. And each one kind of has its own narrative. We had one in 2013 going into 2014, 2017, 2021, and it looks like we're just entering a new one now. And they all have their own, tweak. In 2017, retail was kind of entering the space. In 2020 going into 21, we have now enterprises that are actually buying Bitcoin and buying crypto. We had MicroStrategies, we had Tesla, and then we had Square. They were kind of entering the space. And we also had, going back to 2017, I was kind of crossing my wires there, we also had the ICO boom. This one, it's a little bit different. So now we have ETFs. So it's a lot easier to get involved with these different products. We have Bitcoin had their ETFs in the very beginning of this year, and several of them launched. And then we also had an ETF for Ethereum, so the native cryptocurrency for the Ethereum network. Now we're starting to see some other ones get filed, and HBAR is included in that. And we can talk about that a little bit later.
Okay. But
I think the big impetus for the run-up that we've seen lately has been the regulatory environment, or the perceived change in the regulatory environment. It's been pretty hostile over the past few years under the past administration. But the administration that's going to be coming in under Trump, it seems like it's going to be much more conducive to growth in the crypto industry. And also during the past 4 years, there's been a bunch of different crackdowns on cryptocurrencies. Most of them have been the ones that actually have use, can actually do something. Bitcoin kind of had a free pass, Ethereum a little bit less so, but kind of had a free pass. And then the meme coins, because they served absolutely no purpose, they also kind of got a free pass. Well, since the election, and people know that there's going to be at least some clear sailing ahead of us, it's allowed us to, we'll say, shift back over, or the focus of the market has shifted over to the tokens that have utility, can actually do something. And that's the real...
That's not true at all. The market hasn't shifted at all. Meme coins are bigger than ever. People still don't care about utility yet. I don't agree with this.
Promise of crypto. And there's really no network out there that has more potential when it comes to actual utility than HBAR.
Not true. Look at Constellation Daag.
utility tokens, as we call them, have seen a pretty good run up, but HBAR has been outperforming. I know when we were at the bottom of the market, we'll say we were at about 50 on CoinMarketCap. So that's the list of tokens and how much they're worth. So we've pretty much outperformed fairly well. And I think that comes down to people realizing that Hedera has utility. There's a good chance that it's going to be in the clear from a regulatory standpoint. And then once they jump into Hedera, and we're going to go through some of these rabbit holes now, they go down these rabbit holes and really realize how much potential's there.
Yeah, I think you hit something like 16 or 15 biggest market cap right now. One of the things that, we were talking about the functioning. When I look at this, it's a distributed ledger. This is the big thing, a full consensus distributed ledger. And you can protect things from hacking on a distributed ledger. It becomes, you're making whatever it is that you're putting into this network, you're making it much, much more secure. Right now, we're practically on the verge of World War III. World War III is going to look very different than any other wars. We have a very vulnerable power grid right now. We have a very vulnerable water system in the United States. I mean, you can use Hashgraph for tracking inventory, correct?
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of supply chain use cases out there, but you talked about water. One of the things that was experimented with early on, and we don't know which one of these use cases is going to catch the most fire, but one of the things that was being done was they had sensors that were hooked up to the internet that were, pinging water or air quality and things like that, putting that on the ledger using the Hedera consensus service so anybody can check it. And once it's on the ledger, we know that's accurate and, that's the online notary. We're making...
You don't know that's accurate because all the nodes are from giant companies. The companies can come together and just work together and lie, or the governments can force them to lie. This kind of thing, it's not truly decentralized. So you can't trust it 100%, but you can trust it 90%, maybe. If you trust the companies, you trust Boeing. I love Boeing, right? We all love, just joking.
Sure that the provenance of that information is valid. So it certainly has a lot of applications there.
Yeah. Can Bitcoin do any of this?
No.
No, it's certainly not the way Hedera can. There's certain things that you could certainly put on there, but as far as the efficiency, the difference is many orders of magnitude as far as the efficiency between the two networks. They serve just different purposes. Bitcoin might be a store of value, not as good as gold and silver in my view, but Hedera does a completely different thing. It's the utility. It does that real world asset tokenization to facilitate exchanges. It's that provenance of data. It can be those decentralized physical infrastructure, things along those lines. It's the oil to maybe Bitcoin's gold.
Okay, good description. You were talking about some real world physical assets being able to put on the hash graph. People want to say blockchain, and it's not a blockchain. So the graph of hashes.
Right, and so of course the real world assets, aka RWAs, is a huge narrative this cycle. So of course we're going to talk about that because that's the big narrative.
That's it. So yeah, real world asset tokenization. Now we're talking about all kinds of things. So it could be stocks and bonds. It could be currencies. They're all going to be tokenized. I have no doubt in my mind when you have something that is this much more efficient, we'll say with payments, you're transferring money. Hedera is 1,000 times more efficient than the legacy system. So Visa, it's 1,000 times more efficient. So there's no question that we're going to see things being...
So let's look at his thing. So Hedera is the number one. BNB is 19 times. Solana, Neutron. Okay. Why is Elrond so expensive? Why is Cardano so expensive? I don't think this is accurate. Polkadot is more inefficient than Ethereum. That doesn't seem right. Well, I get Ethereum's now proof of stake, so it's different. Most of these coins are centralized. They're not decentralized in any way. I don't trust Tezos. I don't trust Tron in any way. Avalanche is better. Okay.
And we're seeing that happening continuously on Hedera. So Red Swan is doing that with real estate. We have teams like Diamond Standard, which is doing it with diamonds. We have a couple of exchanges launched. So they're starting off small. We had a couple commodities exchanges. So it was Digital Commodities Exchange and Verto are two of the exchanges that started to do this with commodities. But now we're kind of moving up the ladder. The next one that we had, and this is one of the governing council members that just came online, it's the Nairobi Securities Exchange. So this is a national level stock exchange.
I mean, just so you know, like none of this is super exciting. There's every other project that does RWAs has examples just like this of some country in Africa of doing the stock market or doing something like that. I've seen that in VeChain. I've seen that in so many different things. I've seen a lot of different tokens talk about real estate on the blockchain or real estate on the Daag or whatever it's gonna consensus mechanism you're using. So this doesn't mean much to me, right? I mean, I saw this stuff last cycle. I saw them doing these sort of real use cases on different chains.
Coming to the Hedera meetings has actually been the CEO himself. A lot of times, it's a lower level executive, it's somebody from upper management, something like that. But we actually have the CEO, and he's committed to wanting to build his exchange on top of Hedera. And of course, that's where it's going to start. We're going to have, Nairobi Stock Exchange, maybe some other smaller exchanges to start off. And then it's just going to move up the line. You're going to have, Texas Stock Exchange, which is going to be launching soon. They're going to start to focus on how is this being done? Where does the efficiencies come from? How fast is the finality, all that kind of stuff. And then it's going to be New York Stock Exchange, COMEX, FTSE. It's just going to go down the line. It's exciting to see.
It is going to go down the line, but that doesn't mean it's going to be on Hedera Hashgraph or HBAR. There's a lot of people fighting for these same positions, so we'll see who wins.
We know that this stuff is going to happen. And, when we first had some of those traditional exchanges with Verto and Digital Commodities Exchange come online, we're like, we see where this is going. And it's following exactly how I've expected. And now we have one of the governing council members that's running an exchange that wants to put Hedera at the core of their tech stack.
Awesome. So you talked about 1,000 times more efficiency. In what aspect? Because it's even far greater than that when it comes to energy consumption. Like compared to Bitcoin, the energy consumption is so infinitesimal.
That is a stupid comparison. That is a dumb comparison. Don't even ask that question compared to Bitcoin. As he said, they are different things for different use cases, so you cannot compare their energy consumption for this.
When it comes to transaction fees, it's 1/100th of a penny to transfer any amount, $1 trillion. The fee is 1/100th of a penny. Do you have any other measurements of efficiency when you're talking about fees, speed, energy efficiency, and so on?
Now, I don't have them all memorized off the top of my head, but I was actually, when it's 1,000 times more efficient than the centralized system of Visa, right?
Visa. Okay.
Visa,
so if you're
not
talking
Bitcoin.
about like Bitcoin power consumption compared to Hashgraph, it is probably more like hundreds of thousands or millions.
And we'll get you the slide that shows how much more efficient. Even some of the other very efficient DLTs out there.
Visa does offer you chargebacks and stuff, though. You can get a return. If you're going to be paying somebody with Hashgraph, how do I get, if there's a mistake or someone hacks in or steals money, how do I get my money back? Am I going to ask Boeing to help me out? So there's definitely advantages to Visa.
100x less efficient than Hedera. And this was actually, there's a couple different entities that bore this out. The one that I'm quoting right now is from the University College London, one of the Hedera governing council members. You might think that they became a council member and then did the study. It was actually the other way around. They did the study and then they said, you know what, this is something we want to be involved with. So they became a Hedera governing council member. But you're absolutely right around the fees. And what that energy efficiency does is allows you to have the most headroom into how low your fees can get. So it doesn't matter if right now there might be some other DLTs out there that are covering all the costs. So for them, it's free. You don't get a free lunch. Eventually, they're going to have to pay for that. But Hedera, because it is the most efficient, has the most room to lower their fees. And there's different fees for different services on Hedera. So if you're spinning up a new account on Hedera, I think it's about 2 cents. For using Hedera consensus service or the cryptocurrency service, like you mentioned, it's 1/100th of a cent. For transferring tokens, so it might be a security, like I said, or it might be a currency, or it might be a loyalty point, it's 1/10th of a cent. If you're using the smart contract service, now, like I said, that's less efficient. So that's 5 cents, still cheap, but not nearly as cheap as the 1/10th of a cent for sending a token back and forth. Even though we talk about the environmental efficiency, the electrical efficiency being good for environmental use cases, it really comes down to dollars and cents.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
If it's a flat fee, if you know every time you're going to send it's 1/100th of a cent, or every time you do a token creation, it's $1, every time you do a smart contract interaction, it's 5 cents, that's really cool. If it's a stable fee, that's pretty exciting. It can be really annoying when dealing with ETH, the fluctuation of price, if it's a bull market or not a bull market. So if that's the case, that's cool, if that's the case.
Once stocks start trading on this and you've got exchanges going and everything. I said in episode 8 of Hidden Secrets of Money, to me, it brought the great hope back. When I went to, in 2014, I went to Bitcoin on the Beltway. It shows me buying my first Bitcoin. It was just $100. It was a fraction of a Bitcoin. And then I went back and kept on feeding that machine. And,
I remember that well.
Yeah. But at that conference, Ethereum had just been introduced, and there was a great unity among everybody. Everybody felt that they were changing the world, that they were making a difference, that they were opening up. The big hope was that everything would be a peer-to-peer payment system like Satoshi Nakamoto had envisioned, that Bitcoin was going to be used as money and that Ethereum was going to be used for the smart contracts and such. And then Bitcoin block size got capped, and at about the same time, all of these other cryptos sprang up. Oh, by the way, you were talking about meme cryptos. When Hashgraph was peaking just recently, HBAR was peaking at 39 cents. I went and looked at the top performer in the last hour, the last day, the last week, and it was HBAR every time, except when you went to monthly, it was outperformed by Peanut the Squirrel, which doesn't do anything, right?
Sure. But I think a lot of that capital that, like I was saying before, that was in those meme coins, because they were crazy to say, but they were safer from a regulatory standpoint than these tokens that actually do things. And I think a lot of that capital is going to move into things like HBAR.
Yeah. Well, when Lehman and Mintz developed HBAR, they were very careful to try to make everything as compliant as possible, knowing in the future.
I just remembered something when I was doing research on HBAR a couple of years ago. I think the Hashgraph is patented. And I know that's what really freaking turned me off. When I got into crypto, I got in because of Bitcoin. I got in because of decentralization. I was a believer. I am a believer. So I know that really turned me off last time. I just remembered that. I wonder if they'll comment on that. So it seemed like the creator of the Hashgraph wasn't the coolest guy in the world. But I mean, if you invented technology, I get you patenting it. But if you're patenting it, what are we doing in crypto? Why is the token going to pump? Let's talk about that.
This would be necessary if you wanted to be able to put stocks on the graph of hashes. So it was done with an eye.
That's so weird. There's something very strange about Daag, Constellation Network, ticker DAG. Why are they not including that into crypto products developed in the US when Daag is currently being used by the US Air Force? You don't see it getting written up about.
All be regulated one day. And so they were prepared. I find this all very exciting.
Yeah.
And just to remind the viewers, we're up at about 29 cents right now. And it was 10 cents the last time that you and I had a conversation. I think the time before that, it was about a nickel. And, it had been down, like I said, at 1 penny for quite a while. And so the opportunity that was there, and I think there's still a tremendous amount of opportunity. So HBAR is the base level platform that all of these other things ride on top of, right? So that's like the railroad tracks. And what do you call the thing that is the train that's going to carry?
Generally, I mean, we call all these different things use cases that are built on top of Hedera. Now, HBAR itself is like I said, the oil. It's the payment for all the different services. So all the services cost, I quoted some of the prices for them. They're paid in HBAR, but priced in dollars. So they're marking that to market on a regular basis. So you pay all those fees in HBAR. And that's where, the demand for the HBAR comes from. And some of those go to some of the HBAR that's brought in can be used for incentivizing additional nodes that could be run. It can be used for incentivizing the token holders to secure the network. And then it can be used to continue to build out the
Why do they need token holders to secure the network when they have these giant companies?
Ecosystem and build the network.
So the HBAR tokens are required by the people that build these. Do you call them dApps?
Yes, they can be
building a layer on top of it, but it requires those tokens for this layer to run.
There's all kinds of applications that are being launched here. We'll talk about one here. We already talked about real world asset tokenization. The next one we'll get into is decentralized physical infrastructure. So we've touched on some of these things. One of the things that I've noticed is a lot of things that talked about in the crypto space, it's things that will eventually happen. We are going to do this. Well, the things that are being built on Hedera are actually happening. So in this decentralized physical infrastructure space, one of the teams is YSAT and CLSQ. They're both founded by the same person. They're sending these satellites up into space to facilitate transactional Internet of Things. And CLSQ is going to have this seal coin, or actually, I'm not sure where the token itself is going to reside, but that's going to be the medium of exchange for these different objects that are out there, whether it's smart cities or autonomous vehicles, smart homes, whatever it may be, to be able to transact between those different objects. Of course, we want to onboard the next billion users, but we also also need to onboard the next trillion objects. That's one of the things that Carlos, the founder of these two entities, says all the time. We're going to onboard those. And he's creating with SealSQ the chips that are going into all these different objects. Since the last time we talked, they've...
If you're not aware or understand what this guy's saying, it's basically like every single device that we have that is a smart device, whether that's your phone or your refrigerator or whatever, anything that's got a computer chip in it now, will be connected to some sort of, I don't want to say blockchain, but some sort of graph or DAG, so they can interact and communicate with each other and verify the data coming between them to make sure everything's accurate. So I am aware of this use case, this technology being implemented through Constellation DAG, because that is the one I am the most bullish on. But I understand what he's saying, and all this shit is true. This will all come together. A great use case that DAG is working on right now, that I'm sure HBAR will say they're going to work on as well, is like you can think about all these autonomous vehicles or these driverless cars. They need to be able to interact with each other so they don't crash into each other, and we need to make sure that all the data is true that these cars are sending between each other. Because if something gets hacked, we're going to have a huge accident. You know, that could be a terrorist incident where they're hacking these autonomous trucks. So that is a very, very important use case, and that's what he's discussing right now. And all this shit will be on the graph. That's totally true.
Made some traction with potential customers. They have the Swiss Army that's interested in what they're doing. They're also building the hardware. So they're building these chips, and they're going to go into these different objects, and they're also going to be building a phone. It's going to be a Web3 crypto-enabled phone. We're trying to get a lot of the dApps, like you said, that Hedera has, whether it's Hashpack or Twigital or Earthlings. That's a game, Karate Combat. We're going to try to get all these dApps on the phone so people could use them.
Nothing revolutionary. Other projects are building phones too.
That's what the chips are, to be able to make this Web3 world so much easier for people to use. But it's not going to stop there. That's going to be the start. They're putting these satellites into space, ready for these transactional Internet of Things. So all of the infrastructure is getting to the point where it's in place and ready to go. So the next layer is getting that token to be able to transfer between one another. And that's supposed to be coming next year. And that token is going to be built on Hedera. Another DePIN, decentralized physical infrastructure use case, is Neuron. And Neuron there's another network that's similar out there called Helium, but Neuron did it a little bit differently. They said, well, what's the one use case we know that what we want to do is perfect for? And it was actually drones and aviation, making sure to track these objects as they're going through and doing what they need to do. They knew that there was going to be the need for delivery using drones. There's no point in having a 4,000.
Exactly what I was just talking about with like the autonomous vehicles, these driverless cars. With drones, the same situation. You got 1,000 drones flying at the same time. They all need to interact with each other, and they need to make sure that the data going between them is accurate.
Pound vehicle delivering an object that's only a few ounces. So you can do all of that with drones. So they said, well, what is the best sensors we would need to put out to be able to do that? They determined what those sensors were, and then they went about and made sure that they had customers. They're in deep talks with, well, 3 of the 4. James, the founder of this team, hasn't told me which 3, but the big 4 drone delivery services are Google Wing, Amazon Prime, Zipline, and Mana. And they're in deep talks with 3 of those 4. So they have the customers. Then they needed to go out and put the sensors out. So they started a beta program. They have these sensors already throughout the world. And now they're going to be moving on to the next step. They need to incentivize all the people that are running these different sensors. And they're starting off with that beta program, but they're going to need a token because these transactions have to be done on a very regular basis. So they're going to be launching a token again on Hedera going into next year. And then it's going to be all about scaling. Once they've gotten that layer on board, they're going to scale. They'll start off with that aviation use case, tracking drones and incentivizing all of the sensor operators. But those sensors are very useful for a lot of other things as well. So they're going to move directly from that into autonomous vehicles, into smart cities. These things take years. Even though you can dream things up, that doesn't mean...
Do you want your smart city to be run by Boeing? I don't know. Maybe you do.
It's going to come to fruition. And the difference I see with what's happening on Hedera and a lot of other networks is the teams that are attracted to and building on Hedera are actually making these things come to fruition. Certainly the gaming space is an interesting one to talk about, and this is being done in a lot of different ways. We've talked about Karate Combat in the past, so they spun up a token called Karate, and they do something called up-only gaming.
And he's talking about all these different projects. They are spinning up their own token on Hedera. So it only cost me, what, $2 to create the token, and then I'm no longer using the HBAR token if I'm using Karate Combat or whatever this game is. Why is the token going to pump?
So you can acquire these tokens several different ways. They have airdrops of them. You can go and buy them on the open market. And then they have these big events on a regular basis. The next one's going to be coming out on December 19th down in Miami. And whichever fighters you think are going to win, you can put your tokens on those. If you get it right, you get more tokens. If you don't lose anything. And they have that all built into the tokenomics. They can work on having revenue in their token, which is called karate. And this is another example of we're seeing the usage go up.
This is stupid.
When they first launched the first up-only gaming.
If this is all you have to show me is a dumb karate coin, like, okay.
Event, they had about 1,500 users. Few events later, they were up to 11,000. Few events later, it was 38,000. Now they're at 120,000. And all of these use cases on Hedera are going through that same kind of curve. It might start slow, but it goes much faster over time, as not only are we getting new use cases online, but each individual use case is starting to ramp up. And that's all revenue for the Hedera network. While we're on gaming, one of my favorite is Earthlings. These teams that get attracted to the Hedera ecosystem, they are grinders. And they've already launched a mini game. It's called Steam Runner. It's just a simple sidekick game. They're trying to put these things out because they're completely bootstrapped on a regular basis. They want to have 3 of these sidekick games every year. And the main way they use Web3, they use Hedera, is they spin up tokens for in-game assets. That could be the in-game currency. It's called Steam. You can use that to trade back and forth in the game, because a lot of times in games you need those in-game currencies. But also other kinds of assets. So they have avatars, so the different types of people, and they have different attributes. So one might run faster, one might be able to jump for.
Stupid, dude, stupid. I don't care. If you're bullish on gaming, if you think that's the way to go, I mean, there's other platforms that are really focused on it and have like big games coming out that are whatever, like AAA kind of games, not bootstrapped games. This is not a good selling point, man. I get some people are building dApps. Great. Every fucking layer 1 has people building dApps on it.
Or slide further, all kinds of different things. And you can, once you've gotten one of these avatars, you can use it in all the different games. So everything that they come up with, even other games that are done by different teams, they might be able to work with other teams and allow those assets, which become bearer assets, as long as you have it in your wallet, you can use it wherever.
That's every
and that's
single
where
chain.
I really started to feel the power of these NFTs, because they are non-fungible tokens. Because as soon as I started playing their first game, I was like, you know what? I wanted this different avatar. And without thinking twice, I dropped a couple thousand HBAR, which now is worth a lot more than when I actually bought it. But I went and I got all the different avatars because I wanted to try them all out. But I know that not only can I use it for that one small game that I was playing at the time, but all of these games that are going to be coming out, I'm going to be able to use it every single time. I don't want to say it's an investment, but there's going to be more things you can do with it over time. And those are their sidekick games, but they're also going to create this grand scale gaming metaverse to participate in as well. It's family friendly. I've been having a blast with it so far, and the team seems really excited about it.
Okay, well, this is all awesome news, Brendan. I want to thank you very much for this interview.
Okay. Am I super bullish here? It's okay. I don't see anything that's really blowing my mind away. So let's say, forget the fundamentals or any hype we're going on. Let's look purely on a chart here. Let's see what we got. So you have to think about this kind of thing. Like, if I'm talking about this, you can come from this from many perspectives. Are you a trader? Are you buying and holding? Do you like the fundamentals of this thing? Well, we did have quite the pump recently. We're still below all-time highs. All right, so I mean, the chart doesn't look bad. Obviously, this coin's not dead. Let's say you don't care about fundamentals and you're completely a trader. You probably aren't. So, especially like if this is your first or second cycle and you don't know how to read a chart, I would not recommend trading anyone. Although I like this pattern right now. I like the strength of this impulse. Wick down, not great. I don't like this curving that's going on right here, and the volatility is going down here. But on that wick, it came right back up. Do I think we're going to dump right back down? It's very possible. I mean, if you want to consider that a line break at that moment, which it might be. If this starts going, if you're watching this video like right at this moment, right? Would I be buying right now? If for some reason I was really pumped at what this guy said? No. So here's right, if this starts going slow grind, you can see right now we're sitting at this point right here, which has got a lot of action going on at this point. But if we lose this level, we're coming down to here. So if I started to see this slow grind up, I would be really nervous. I'd be really nervous that this is gonna turn and then drop and maybe go from here, slow grind up and then drop down to 17. Then I would start buying. If I was interested in purchasing this token, I would be putting buy orders around here. What is this number? 17 cents, right around there. I'd probably put some buys in there. I'd put some buys in here. I don't think I would be buying right now. If the only thing that would make me buy at this current, around this level, is if we saw, I want to see a strong impulse from here. I want to see a strong impulse from here, pull down to like this level, and then I want to see it hold that point. Then I'm buying. I'm in. Okay, fine. If I'm bullish on this coin. What I don't understand, why is the coin gonna pump? Like, I understand, of course, everything can pump on hype. If you show me a website and put Boeing on there and put Apple and Google, whatever names they got on that freaking list, a coin will pump, sure, that'll happen. But what is it about the tokenomics that's gonna make this coin pump? Because I don't understand, if it's so cheap, why do I need the token? Like, if all these transactions are so minimal, why can't somebody just buy $20 worth of the token at whatever price point it is, and then $20 of that token will be enough for me to transact forever, basically, right? So what causes this token to increase in value? And I guess for me, for my overall thing right now, I think Maloney, I don't think he knows much about crypto, honestly. I don't think he's really like deep in the trenches paying attention to what's going on. I'm getting the impression that HBAR is kind of more of like a boomer coin. It's definitely like a cabal type thing. So I don't love all those aspects of it, but will that stop me from buying a token if I think it's gonna pump? No, but it stopped me from holding a token. HBAR tokenomics. All right, explain HBAR tokenomics to me. 50 billion tokens, 71 supplied, circulating.
And no more HBAR can be created. Now, out of that 50 billion, roughly 72% has been released.
Now, hold on. This is the problem I have with XRP and all this other bullshit. 50 billion have been created, and no more can be created, unless, of course, all the members of the council decide to create more. This stuff is not decentralized, and people talk about it like it truly is, that it can't be more created. That's not true. These 32 or 36 members of the council, they can just say, you know what, I think we need 1 billion more.
Out of the 72%, more than half is locked in staking by the governing council members, and roughly 0.2%.
So the council members own more than 62% of the supply.
Has been essentially burned through transaction processing.
And what if we get, if Google gives up on this project, or Boeing, or the other bullshit people, they just dump, they're not gonna hold this stuff, and they got a huge percentage of that supply. This is why old school crypto's better and meme coins are better. Supply's completely out. These guys are selling supply, new supply, monthly. So you're the buyer of the new supply monthly. I don't feel any sense of FOMO, which is not a good sign. You know, if you're not feeling FOMO, that's not a good sign. You should never respond to FOMO, but if you feel it, that's a good sign that other people will feel it. This doesn't make me feel it. I'm not buying HBAR to hold it. I'm not going to be a hodler. This is not a bag that I would hold for a long time. Obviously, though, I hope it's obvious, none of this is financial advice. This is just the opinion of a cartoon monkey. So please don't think that this is financial advice, because it's not. If you like HBAR, if you do feel it, I would encourage you to check out Constellation Daag, at least to understand one of their biggest competitors, what they're doing, and where they are at with their development, and the companies that they're working for. In terms of data transmission, if you want to see real world assets and like things being tracked, you can check out VeChain to see their competition. So it's not like HBAR, when I'm watching this, it makes me feel like Robert Malone isn't aware that there's other projects doing the exact same things and working on the same projects and the same verticals. So if you're into HBAR, great, go for it. If you're a super gigantic holder and you're not aware, not even a gigantic holder, but for your own personal bag, if this is a big percentage of your portfolio and you're not aware of Constellation Daag or VeChain, look at them just to be aware that there is competition. And if you hear that stuff and makes you nervous, you can just trim your bag a little bit, just get yourself into a point of being comfortable. Regardless of that, I'm still most elegant monkey ever. Ticker meme is still my most bullish play of this cycle, and the next cycle, I think that's going to be the winner, in my opinion. And a full-length video on meme will be coming out. Until then, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, give me a like, and stay elegant.